Yes, today we are going to talk about the major connectors. That is the main core topic for your university exams as well as for your NEET PG entrance. So, going ahead, these are our contents. That is introduction and what do we mean by major connectors, what are the types, and conclusion and references. So to be precise, let us start what is an RPD and what does it comprises of. So going ahead, we have the introduction, that is what are the components of a typical RPD. So when we'll see, the typical RPD comprises of a major connector, a minor connector, a rest, a direct retainer which can be a clasp, and we have indirect retainers, and we have the denture base. So as you can see here in the diagram here, there is a minor connector, major connector, denture base connectors, and there is a retainer, direct retainer in the form of a clasp, and there is an indirect retainer. Okay, so let us try to understand what is major connector. Major connector, the part of a removable partial denture that joins the component on one side of the arch to those on the opposite side. This is the main definition. If you are preparing for the university exam, this is more important. The part of removable or partially removable dental processes that joins the component on one side of the arch to those on the opposite side. Clear? So basically connector, the word itself tell it is going to connect. So here it is connecting the components on one side of the arch to that of the other. It is not connecting single thing, it is connecting the components. To be precise, components, real. Okay, next, there are various other definitions, but to be precise, we will be following the GPT 8 definition, though we have GPT 9 also, but we'll be following it. Historical background is not of much importance. So going ahead, before going for it, I'll tell you the classification of the major connector. Classification of major connectors is like something like this. Depending upon the arch it is used, we have maxillary major connectors and mandibular major connectors, and depending upon the material which is used, we have acrylic and metallic. And based upon the movement of the denture base, whether the denture base moves away from the residual soft tissue, we have rigid and non-rigid. So going ahead, we'll try to summarize the requirements of a major connector. So the chief function of a major connector, as I have said earlier, is nothing but the unification. That is unification of the major parts of the prosthesis and distribution of the applied force. Whatever the force is applying to a single component, it should be dispersed throughout the soft tissue. A properly designed major connector effectively distributes the forces throughout the arches and will act to reduce the load to any one area while effectively controlling the prosthesis movement. It is through the major connector that the other components of the partial denture become unified and they become effective. Here, in spite of each and every component acting as a singly or individually, all the individual units are combined into one and becoming themselves as an effective single unit. So a major connector, if it can be flexible, but the ineffectiveness of the connected component jeopardizes the supporting oral tissue and can also be detrimental to the comfort of the patient. Failure of the major connector is to provide the rigidity may be manifested by the traumatic damage to the periodontal support of the abutment teeth, injury to the residual ridges, and impingement of the underlying tissue. So before constructing the major connector, we need to keep these things in our mind. So what actually is a major connector? Major connector should be designed and located with the following guidelines. There are certain guidelines which are given in the McCracken, which are needed to be followed. So what are the guidelines? The major connector should be free of the movable tissue. It should not impinge the tissue. Clear? Impingement of the gingival tissue should be avoided. Bony and soft tissue prominences should be avoided during the placement as well as removal. We often see palatal tori or mandibular tori or any soft tissue lacerations or tumor like growth. So these should be avoided. and there should be a relief should be provided. Either those areas should be relieved or they should be away from the soft tissue. Okay, it should be relief should be provided to prevent it settling into the area of possible interferences, such as inoperable tori or elevated or deep median palatine suture. Coming to the major connectors, it should be located or relieved to prevent the impingement of the tissues that occurs because of the distal extension of the denture rotates in functure. So this is the most important thing. So when we are talking about the distal extension denture, either of the class 1 or class 2 is an ideal situation where we'll be giving, and we have the anterior abutment teeth, there is no posterior teeth present, so these are the distal extension dentures. So whenever they are in function, there are chances of rotation, so they can cause the impingement of the tissue. So a care should be taken and a relief should be given wherever they are impinging the soft tissue. Appropriate relief beneath the major connector avoids the need for its adjustment after the tissue damage. If you are giving the appropriate relief prior the delivery of the denture or fabrication of the connector, then there is no need to give any alterations after the tissue damage have occurred. So coming to the design specifications, as we have gone through the guidelines, 3 guidelines, now let us go to the specifications. Margins of the major connectors should be adjacent to the gingival tissue, should be located far enough from the tissue to avoid any possible impingement. Since the gingiva in cases is a soft tissue, very delicate tissue, it should not be you can say it should not be covered by the major connector. It should be placed far enough. To accomplish this, it is recommended that superior border, that is the uppermost portion which is closest to the gingiva, should be located minimum 4 mm below the gingival margin. As you can see in the diagram here in the slide, the upper superior portion is 4 mm below the teeth. From the gingiva to the major connector, we have 4 mm. Clear? Yes. Going ahead, at the inferior border of the lingual bar, so lingual bar is a mandibular major connector. Okay, the limiting factor is the height of the movable tissue. As we all know, the mandible, that too in the anterior region, the movable tissue is a limiting factor because the connector must have the sufficient length and bulk to provide a linguoplate is commonly used when the space is insufficient. As you can see here, the linguoplate, it is covering the partly over the cingulum portion of the tooth. If less than 8 mm exists between the gingival margin and the movable tissue of the movable floor, linguoplate, a sublingual bar or a continuous bar is preferred. So remember, if there is less than 8 mm which is present between the gingival margin to that of the floor of the mouth or the movable portion of the mouth, then usually we prefer linguoplate, sublingual bar or the continuous bar or the cingulum bar. Relief is provided for the soft tissue under all portions of the mandibular major connector and at any location where the framework crosses the marginal gingiva. So as I have said earlier, it should not impinge the soft tissue, so we need to provide the relief. Particularly in the mandibular major connector, there is an issue because the space is less between the gingival margin and the movable soft tissue which is present in the floor of the mouth. So we need to provide the relief. The inferior border of the major connector should be gentle and should be rounded after being casted to eliminate a sharp edge. This is in order to prevent any kind of trauma either to the hard tissue or the soft tissue. Because we are rounding it off, it will be preventing the soft tissue damage or soft tissue trauma. The borders of the major connector should run parallel. As you can see in the diagram, the borders, either of the border on the each side of the major connector should be running parallel to that of the gingival margin. I am telling it again, it should be parallel to that of the gingival margin. Minor connectors that cross the gingival tissue should not abruptly join the major connector at a right angle. In this way, maximum freedom is ensured for the gingival tissue. The minor connector is an important component which will be connecting the major connector with that of the clasp assembly, or you can tell direct retainer, indirect retainer. So the minor connector, it should always not cross the gingival tissue abruptly, so there are chances of stress action at that point, and there can be fracture. So it is better that they join at nearly at a right angle. In this way, maximum freedom is ensured for the gingival tissue. Tori also should be avoided. If there is any tori in the maxillary arch and the patient has got a complications and it is inoperable, then in such situations it is better to provide a relief either with the help of an horseshoe or a closed horseshoe. We can provide it. So if maxillary torus must be covered, relief should be provided. Avoiding a mandibular tori is much more complicated. Therefore, as a rule, mandibular tori should be surgically removed. In maxillary arch, because no mobile tissue is present in the palate as in the floor of the mouth, the borders of the major connector may be placed well away from the gingival tissue. Structurally, the tissue which is covering the palate is well suited for the placement of connecta because of the presence of the firm submucosal connective tissue which is present in the palate and an adequate deep blood supply. However, when soft tissue covering the midline of the palate is less displaceable than the tissue covering the residual ridge, varying amount of relief under the connectors must be provided to avoid the impingement of the tissue. For gingival tissue, it is recommended that the borders of the palatal connector should be placed a minimum of 6 mm away from the palate to that of the gingival margin. As you can see here in the diagram, the superior portion of it is away by 6 mm. Margins should taper towards the tissue and should end in the valley of the rugae. This is more important. See, whenever a margin is abruptly present, it can be having a tongue injury or a soft tissue injury. So it should taper and it should get you can say it should get mashed up with that of the soft tissue, and it is important that they should end in the valley of the rugae when we are talking about here about the maxillary connectors. So whatever the maxillary connector limbs, it should end in the valley of the rugae, except for the palatal tori at prominent median palatal suture area. Palatal connectors ordinarily require no relief. Intimate contact between the connector and the soft tissue will provide adequate support, stability, and retention to the denture. So, what are the characteristics of the major connector which is contributing to the health and well-being? So it should be made from an alloy which is compatible to the oral tissue. It should be a biocompatible material. It should be rigid. It should provide cross arch stability through the principle of broad distribution of stress. In the further classes, we will try to discuss about the broad distribution of the stresses. This is the philosophy of design of removable partial denture, and it should not interfere with and or not irritating to the tongue. It do not substantially alter the natural contour of the lingual surface of the mandibular alveolar ridge or of the palatal vault. Do not impinge on the oral tissue when the restoration is placed and is removed or rotates in function. Cover no more tissue than is absolutely necessary. Do not contribute to the retention or trapping of food particles. Hence, support for other elements of the framework to minimize the rotation tendency, contributing to the support of the prosthesis. So in short, guys, requirements when we talk about it should be rigid, it should provide must avoid the impingement of the free gingival tissue, that is, the definitive distance should be maintained between the border of the major connector and the free gingival margin, and it should be at least at least 6 mm for the maxillary major connectors and 3 mm for mandibular major connector. It is an important MCQ, you need to remember. 63, 6 mm for maxillary major connectors and 3 mm for mandibular major connectors. In case of difficulty in obtaining this clearance, the major connectors could cover the free gingiva with adequate relief. Examples: cingulum bar, linguoplate in mandibular major connector. The borders of the major connector should run parallel to the gingival margin. Okay, and if any minor connectors, it should not be crossing at a right angle. Okay, we should provide vertical support and protect the soft tissue. We should provide indirect retention wherever indicated. We should provide for positioning of the denture base where needed. It should be self-cleansing and it should not cause the food entrapment. We should maintain the patient comfort and it should not interfere with that of the speech and phonation. Edges should be rounded, tapered. It should end in the valley or between the rugae in case of maxillary major connector. Border